So G2 and T1 rematched this morning in a highly anticipated best of five. The winner of this was to go on to the top three and face BLG in the loser bracket finals. And then the winner of that will go on to face Genji in the MSI Grand Finals. Now, coming into this series, I honestly predicted G2. G2 had been playing much better the previous two series. T1, and especially Faker, had been looking pretty shaky. T1 against Team Liquid didn't look themselves. Team Liquid played that series very competitively. It was a really close call. And G2 slaughtered TES. So I thought that the trend in which both teams were going, G2 would have the advantage coming into this series. They just looked a step ahead of pretty much every team they had faced thus far. Needless to say, that was not the case. T1 slaughtered them, and it wasn't really close. Games 2 and 3 looked pretty close on the outside, but it just seemed like G2 was on the back foot for most of it. And I think the primary reason for that was probably just nerves, the anticipation of the game. Just watching the way G2 and their individual players moved around and some of the mistakes they made getting caught out alone a lot, they just looked very on edge, very nervous. They did not look comfortable at all. Really, the only person that performed well was Caps. He was pretty much the only member of G2 that was really doing well here. Broken Blade got Astro gapped pretty much every game by Zeus. Yike was pretty relevant 2 games, and on the Ivern game, he got caught out twice in really crucial situations. Han Sama, when put in winning positions on the Draven, just positioned really bad and was caught out multiple times, and Mickey just did his int things. And so overall, it was definitely a disappointing day for G2. They had an off day. It's something that happens in competition. It shouldn't be scoffed at too much, I don't think. If these two teams played again in a series tomorrow or in 2 days, I don't think it would be the same results. I think that G2, we've seen them be more competitive in the previous series. They just didn't show up, and T1 did. T1 had a really good day. They obviously seemed to have found their rhythm here. Faker played much better in this series. Zeus was an utter beast, and their bot lane was very solid. It's just, what kind of happened on the day today. T1 showed up, G2 didn't, and that's kind of the nature of how competition goes. Unfortunately, we didn't get the anticipated intense rematch that we were all craving from these two teams, but it happens. I think overall G2 can be very proud of how they performed at this MSI. The entire year thus far, everyone has been saying that Europe had lost their competitive edge, was the weakest the region had looked pretty much ever, or at least in recent memory. No one thought that any team from Europe was going to really be able to challenge the Eastern teams. And G2 proved them wrong. G2 played T1 very competitively in 5 games, destroyed top esports, and, that's something to be proud of. Considering the expectations coming into the tournament, G2 overperformed. They really did. And I think they pleased a lot of Western fans, a lot of European fans, definitely more so than North America pleased their fans. But I think overall, even though it's a disappointing exit for G2, without a doubt, they definitely can still be proud of the way they performed in the tournament. Like I said, overperforming, in my opinion, relative to expectation, and being able to really compete with Eastern teams is a really good sign moving forward. I think if these players can stay together for another year or any significant amount of time moving forward, I think the progression with this roster can lead to some really good things internationally. Will they be able to challenge teams like Genji for an international title? Maybe. But I think at the very least, this roster has proved that it is possible to challenge Eastern teams in the West. And the thing that you have to note here about this roster is that when it was assembled, it wasn't viewed as a super team roster. This wasn't a super team built for international success, and that happens to work out. Broken Blade had been through a lot of teams in the past couple years and was shaky at best. on those teams, and he really turned it around on G2. His career has really turned around on this team. Yike was a rookie last year, was his first year starting for G2, and he played really, really well. Caps obviously is a menace. He has been for years. He's been the best player in Europe for years. And then, Mickey coming back to G2 and Hans coming back to Europe from Team Liquid was a great turnaround. And, when you find 5 players that just mesh together and have really good synergy together, good things happen. And I think that's what happened with this roster. So I really, really hope, obviously there's a whole nother half of the year left in 2024, but I really hope this roster stays together and that they can continue to progress, build synergy. And I think that if that happens, with the amount of changes that franchising has brought from year to year in terms of roster construction, I think if G2 can keep the same roster consistent and progress and practice well, I think that they can have even more success internationally. They've proven it this year that they can progress greatly, and I think that that can continue to develop in future years if they keep the same roster. So I hope that happens. Anyways, considering all that, T1 will be moving on to face BLG. The last time these two teams faced, it was a slaughter in favor of BLG. It was 3-1. None of the games were very close, and I don't see a reason that the next series would be any different. T1 obviously is in better shape in terms of their play than they were in that series, so maybe it could be another 3-1 or a 3-2, but I'm definitely predicting BLG to win this series without a doubt. Bin, I think, is probably the best player in the world right now, other than Chovy maybe. The guy's absolutely insane. And then, like I've said in previous videos, Elk and Knight are, absolutely top tier in their respective positions. So I think that BLG should win the next series against T1, and it should just be a BLG Gen G rematch in the finals. Can T1 win against BLG? Yes, absolutely. Again, as today showed, it really depends on who shows up on the day. If BLG has an off day and T1 has an on day, then T1 will probably win. With teams this good, I think that matters more than just their baseline skill level, because their base skill in terms of individually and in team play is pretty comparable to each other. So I think it just depends on really who shows up for the day and who wants it more. And that's the exciting thing about competition. So that's definitely going to be an interesting series. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen in the next series tomorrow against between T1 and BLG, another rematch, and who will go on to face Gen G in the finals. And as well, let me know what you guys thought about these series this morning, whether or not you think G2 underperformed or choked or whatever. I personally think that they performed great in the tournament and that they just had an off day today, and that happens. But definitely let me know what you guys thought about the series this morning and whether or not G2 can do something similar at Worlds this year, or maybe in future international competition, really continue to challenge and contest those Eastern teams. So that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.